What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna mix it up a little bit, do something a little different. Today I want to do my top 15 favorite horror movies of all time. Now, you guys may not agree with all of these, but these are my favorite, so I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to tell you what I love about them, and they may differ. And this is really hard to do. It was hard to make this list of just 15 because I love a lot of movies. I could have made probably a top 50 of these movies, but to narrow it down to 15, like I said, I'm going to tell you what I love about them. I'm going to talk about them. You may disagree with some of these, and that's fine. Maybe put your top 15 down in the comments below, and we'll talk about it. But I'm gonna tell you mine today. We're gonna go over them. I'm gonna tell you what I love about these movies, and let's discuss it, guys. Let's get into it. Maybe an unpopular opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about this one, but my number 15 is gonna be Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. It's a slasher film, obviously a remake that he rewrote. John Carpenter's original Halloween. Rob Zombie takes this movie back in 2007 and really puts his own spin on it. Really goes into what Michael's backstory was. I feel like this movie, it's got mixed emotions on this one. I know people think it's super sleazy and, there's a lot of shitty dialogue at the beginning of the movie. It really rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I personally love this movie. I remember seeing it back in theaters. I went to the theaters and seen this, and bought it on DVD. Loved the movie. Is it my favorite Halloween of all time? Probably not, but maybe one day I'll do my favorite Halloween movie list. I'll go down. But this made my top 15 because it's a memorable experience for me. Going to the theater, watching this movie with my buddies, getting it on DVD. This movie stars Tyler Mane, he's Michael Myers. Malcolm McDowell, he plays Sam Loomis. And then Scout Taylor Compton plays Laurie Strode. And then Dave Fairch plays young Michael. And I feel like all the acting was really good. And what Rob Zombie brings to this film is his cast of characters. He seems to always have the same kind of actors around him. And I kind of like that. It's almost like kind of like what Tarantino does. Robert Rodriguez, guys like that. They like to use their guys. They like to have their actors and actresses. They like to recycle them. I love this movie. Obviously the sequel, Halloween 2, wasn't as good, but I thought he did really good with this. Going into Michael's backstory was really interesting. It's something that the original movies never really did, and I thought that set this movie apart. Now, this movie got shit on a little bit because of that. People didn't think that, Michael Myers should have a backstory. It's kind of the purpose of him, but I thought the way that they did this story was good. It was interesting. The kills were really good in this movie. They made Michael really big, almost like Jason Voorhees or something in this movie, because Michael's really not known for being very big in some of the other movies in the franchise, but this movie they kind of made him a big brute. He was kind of just a crazy killing machine, going into his childhood and just seeing how he grew up and going through the mental asylum. There's a lot of really good scenes in this movie. They did this movie really well. I fucking love this movie. I don't really care what the criticisms are. I'm a Rob Zombie fan. I don't like every movie the guy makes, but this was definitely one of his better ones. And number 15, Rob Zombie's Halloween. Number 14, kind of an oddball movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. This movie was filmed by Tobe Hooper. Kind of an oddball movie. Doesn't take itself quite as seriously as the Part 1 did. It's more of a black comedy, gore movie, I would say. It's got some really goofy parts in it. The movie stars Dennis Hooper, Carolyn Williams, Bill Johnson, Bill Moseley, and Jim Sadu. Plot follows a radio host victimized and captured by Leatherface and his cannibalistic family, while a former Texas Marshal hunts them down. And this movie just, it really takes place in a radio station towards the beginning of the movie, and then that's when all hell breaks loose. A lot of people. This movie was well received. It made about $8 million in the box office, which is really good. considering they only had a $4.5 million budget to make the movie. I thought the characters look pretty good for the time. It's an older movie. This movie came out in 1986. So for the time, they did really good with the aesthetics. I thought the characters looked really well. A lot of people maybe don't really like this movie. I do. I had a lot of fun with it. And comes in at number 13. Another oddball. But we're going back to Rob Zombie films here. A movie that I never thought I would really consider a top 20, top 30 movie. I mean, honestly, the first time I watched this movie, I didn't really like it as much. Honestly, this movie has kind of grown on me over time. It's a Rob Zombie movie. It's actually his first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, directed by Rob Zombie, of course. Back in 2003, black comedy horror film, co-scored by Rob Zombie. And it was his debut film. And honestly, when I first seen this movie, I didn't really like it that much. But like I said, it grew on me over the years. It's almost a classic now. I feel like I have to watch it every Halloween season just to kind of, what do I love about this movie? If I really think about it, man, it's maybe just the reuse of these actors. I know what these actors ended up being later on in their careers. So kind of just going back and watching them in this film, maybe I didn't appreciate it as much when I first watched this movie through. It comes off a little goofy, but like I said, on that rewatch, that fourth watch, I'm like, oh, you know what? I do like this movie. This movie is actually fucking cool. The way they film it, it's got a lot of like bright neon colors, like really 80s horror film look to it. I like the way the film looks. I love the way the film looks. The story is a little wacky. Obviously, this is the prequel to Devil's Rejects, but it's a rough prequel. It centers around the Firefly family. In this movie, the stars are Sid Haig, who plays Captain Spaulding, Bill Moseley, Sherry Moon Zombie, Karen Black, Rainn Wilson, Chris Hardwick, and Tom Towles. Also, this movie has Tyler Mane in it as well, from Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. This movie, like I said, centers around the Firefly family as they find some young kids on the side of the road in a rainstorm who have a flat tire. They offer to help. Little do they know what they're getting themselves into, and this movie just kind of spirals from there. If you've seen this movie, you kind of know the plot, and you might be surprised that it's in my top 15, and you might think that I'm a Rob Zombie fucking dick rider or something, but listen, I like this movie. I think he really nails the horror aesthetic. I really like the visuals, and it's got a lot of big names in there. I mean, you talk about the actors. I mean, these guys, a lot of these actors and actresses went on to do other really good things, so I love this movie. It's one that grows on you the more you watch it. You can't just watch this movie one time and really kind of take it all in. It's a movie you kind of have to watch a couple of times and give it a chance. And if you give it a chance, I really think you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So at number 13, House of a Thousand Corpses. Oddball. You guys are probably going to fucking shoot me in the comments, but I'm going with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I love this movie, man. I know it doesn't have Michael Myers in it, and I know a lot of people really don't like this movie or don't give it a chance because of that. This movie, if it had not had the Halloween title on it, this movie is great. This is like a classic 80s movie, in my opinion. I love this movie. 1982 American movie, directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. Produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. I think they wanted to make this more of an anthology movie at this time. They were kind of ready to move away from Michael Myers, and it just did not really. People didn't receive it very well. You know, when you make a Halloween movie, they expect there to be Michael Myers in there, especially when he was in the first two movies. Yeah, this movie, it grossed $14.4 million in the box office, which is not bad. It's the poorest performing Halloween film, though, in the series at the time. This movie stars Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, and Dan O'Hurley. Sorry, I couldn't pronounce the name. But this movie's good, man. It's basically follows an evil corporation, Silver Shamrock, which is basically making these Halloween masks that on Halloween night will be triggered to kill children. And this movie it's a little controversial when you think about it like that. Basically, the whole movie centers around Silver Shamrock these commercials are coming out. They want kids to buy these. They want them to watch the commercial on Halloween night at a certain time. That will trigger the chip inside the mask killing the children. This movie, like I said, this movie wasn't received very well. But like I said, if it didn't have the Halloween title on it and it just called it Season of the Witch, this movie probably would have done really well. I feel like that really hurt it. I mean, you say Halloween, people think Michael Myers. When you don't have Michael Myers in the movie, it really killed the movie. It killed the publicity for the movie. Nobody really wants to see this movie just because of that. But honestly, if you just give the movie a chance, this movie fucking kicks ass. This is a great movie. This is a classic movie. I have to watch it every October. It's one of my favorite movies, man. Regardless if it's a Halloween title or not. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. If you guys haven't seen it, try to find it. You're probably not going to find it on a streaming service. It's a really hard movie to really kind of find on or able to watch right now, or at any time, really. But this movie's really good, man. Give it a chance. If you love 80s horror, you're going to love this movie. Don't buy too much into the Michael Myers isn't in this movie. Of course, he's not in this movie. Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It may not be a good Halloween movie, franchise movie, but it is a good Halloween movie, not franchise. So give it a chance. Watch this movie if you haven't. And if you have, comment down below. Let me know what you think about it. A lot of people probably think it's shit. I don't think it's shit. I think it's a really good movie. And I think a lot of people should give it a chance and watch this movie. So it comes in at number 12 on my top 15. All right, guys, coming in at number 11. This is a movie that was received really well. So I think you guys will like this one. Stephen King's Pet Sematary, 1989, supernatural horror movie. I think this movie is universally accepted pretty good. I think a lot of people like this movie. This movie stars Del Midkiff, Fred Gwynne, Dennis Crosby, Brad Greenquist, Michael Lombard, Miko Hughes, and Blaise Berdal. Directed by Mary Lambert. And, this is a good old movie, man. This movie grossed about $57.5 million in the box office off of an $11.5 million budget. It was a good movie, man. I don't know what you could. There's really not many critiques about this movie. I love the original. Some of the scariest scenes I've seen as a child was watching this movie for the first time, like with my dad. Just seeing it on TV and just that Zelda scene, Aunt Zelda, just Rachel. Oh, God. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. But yeah, coming in at number 11, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. I mean, there's really not much to... I think everybody knows about the Creed family. You know about little young Gage getting hit by, the truck, playing in the road. And then, of course, his dad tries to bring him back by burying him in Pet Sematary, which reanimates him as an evil entity. He comes back and... pretty much takes his family out. So this is a classic. I love this movie. There's really not a whole lot to be said about it. I think a lot of people do. It's pretty universally loved, Stephen King. So number 11, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. All right, guys, we're breaking into the top 10 now. Shit's about to get serious, I think. This one, I love this movie. Coming in at number 10. I remember watching this as a kid growing up. And it's the original Wrong Turn from 2003. I love this movie. Directed by Rob Schmidt and written by Alan McElroy. This movie it stars Desmond Harrington and Eliza Deskew. And it basically, in this movie, you're following a group of friends on their way to have a little getaway. They end up getting in a car accident with... Desmond Harrington's character, who is also on his way somewhere on a backwoods road. They have a little car crash, and both cars are pretty much enabled. So the two parties kind of join to go look for help. They need help. They're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so they venture off into the woods. And then as they're looking for help, they kind of stumble upon this little cabin. It looks like somebody has recently been there, so they go in, they look for help, and basically what they find out is there's a bunch of cannibals in the woods who want to do nothing but kill them. You know what I mean? These guys want to kill them and eat them. So this movie, it just really good. It's a good classic movie. It's a slasher movie. Like I said, 2003, directed by Rob Schmidt. I love this movie. It's a classic in my opinion. It's the only Wrong Turn besides the 2019 or 2020 Wrong Turn, the one that just came out, the remake. This is the only one besides that one that I really fuck with. It's the original. You know, I know they ended up making a bunch of these. I think there's maybe six of them. I think, maybe 7. I don't know. I don't watch any of the other ones. I really just like this one. I tried to watch Wrong Turn 2, didn't like it. But this one's definitely a top 10 for me just because I remember watching it growing up and it just being a movie that I was like, just, it's one of those movies you watch. You didn't really know what you was watching when it first came on and you're just kind of like, it pulls you in. And I always like a movie like that. It really got my attention. And yeah, so that's my number 10. That's the original Wrong Turn from 2000. All right, guys, coming in at number 9. The 2001 film, Jeepers Creepers. Now, when I first watched this movie, I really didn't know what I was watching. I think I ended up watching it with some family members, like cousins or something. Something that they had, rented at the Blockbuster or whatever. Really didn't know. I just knew it was scary. And so we started watching it. And, I didn't know what to expect. It starts off, there's this car going down the road. And all of a sudden, you're just having a little chat, brother and sister. And then all of a sudden, here comes this, in the background, you can see this big-ass truck just fucking hauling ass right up on them. And then all hell breaks loose, tries to run them off the road. And I just remember from there, I was hooked. I love this movie. Now, if you look at this movie, it's controversial because the director, Victor Salva, was convicted pedophile. So a lot of people really don't really fuck with this movie anymore. That aside, the movie's really fucking good, dude, and people just really just don't want to give it a chance because Victor Salva's a part of it. But like I said, if you really don't, I don't give a fuck about that. As far as like the movie's good, he's a piece of shit, but he made a good movie here. And people are gonna say what they want to say about the guy, and that's fine. I'm not sticking up for no fucking pedophile or anything like that. But this movie's good. It stars Gina Phillips and Justin Long. I think you're probably familiar with Justin Long. He's played in a lot of parts in a lot of movies. And basically what this movie is about is the Creeper. The Creeper is the man in the truck. He needs to eat every 23 years. And basically what he does is he finds people that he likes. He can smell it. He can smell something on them that he wants, and he pretty much chases them down, tracks them down until he gets what he wants off of them. He wants his body parts, he wants limbs, he wants whatever. And usually he does this through through smelling and just gets the scent. He's almost like an animal, but he's really got a demon look to him. Gina Phillips and Justin Long's characters are brother and sister in this movie. They're driving down a desolate road. The Creeper comes hauling ass, tries to run them off the road. They don't really know what the fuck's going on at this point. He goes around, he takes off. They don't see him anymore. They think it's over. Little do they know, get a couple more miles down the road, they see his truck off to the side of the road, and he's dumping bodies down this fucking tube, and you're just like, what the hell? And I just remember watching this for the first time and being like, wow, man, it was one of those movies. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Hadn't seen any previews for it. Didn't even know it was out. Didn't know anything about it. Just watched it blindly, and it was a great experience, and I'll always remember it, and I'll always think it's one of the better movies. So coming in at number 9 for me, Jeepers Creepers. All right, guys, coming in at number 8, another Rob Zombie movie. Y'all gonna love this. The Devil's Rejects from 2005. It's the sequel to the House of a Thousand Corpses. Obviously directed by Rob Zombie. Starring Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, and Sherry Moon Zombie. Mostly, those are your top 3 characters in this movie. It basically what it is the police have caught up to the Firefly family. They raid their house to start the movie, and seemingly catch their mother. They capture their mother, take her in for questioning, and those 3 escape: Sid Haig's character, Bill Moseley's character, and Sherry Moon's character. Which is, they escape. They're on the run basically this entire movie. This movie is a horror movie because they're serial killers. They're on the run. It has some really disturbing parts in this movie that really like get your attention, and it really is a step up in storytelling from House of a Thousand Corpses. I thought House of a Thousand Corpses was all over the fucking place, and I thought this movie, he really dialed it down, you know, and really the story almost is what kept you going in this movie, as to where House of a Thousand Corpses, it was more the aesthetic and the look of the movie that makes me like it so much. This movie, I'll watch it again because the storytelling is really good and these characters are interesting enough to where you want to kind of keep up with them. This movie was received pretty well. A lot of people consider this to be Rob Zombie's best movie. I can't really argue that. I think it might be. I think it is his best movie. It's an original story by him, and I think he fucking nails it here. I love this movie. I really love Bill Moseley's character in this movie. He plays Otis Driftwood. Just a complete fucking badass. I mean, he's a shithead, but he's a badass in this movie. You know, of course, Sid Haig, Captain Spaulding. I'll always love Captain Spaulding. Repping the shirt today. But yeah, guys, coming in number 8, another Rob Zombie film. Devil's Reach coming in at number 7. 2003 American slasher film, Freddy versus Jason. Now, I love this movie. New Line Cinema finally did it. They finally brought these two together. They had kind of been teasing that there might be some kind of, dual film putting these two icons together at some point. It finally happened in 2003. I love Jason Voorhees. I love Freddy Krueger. You really can't go wrong with this movie. And there's really not a whole lot to really get into as far as, I think this movie was well received for the most part. I think if you're a fan of either two of those guys, you hold this movie pretty high regard like I do. Directed by Ronnie Yu, and starring Monica Keena, Kelly Rowland, Jason Rittner, Chris Marquette. And basically the movie just centers around, Freddy wants to come back. You know what I mean? Freddy wants to come back. He uses Jason really to start killing again, because he just feels like people are forgetting about him. You know what I mean? And he doesn't want to be forgot about. Freddy Krueger, the bad motherfucker that he is, he wants to get back out there. He wants to kill. And so this movie ends up, he uses Jason to kind of spark, I don't know. They kind of start thinking that Freddy's back. They don't really know this Jason yet. So he kind of uses Jason, manipulates Jason into killing, just to kind of get people talking about Freddy again. People think Freddy's back. Little do they know, Freddy's actually manipulating Jason the entire time. Jason's having visions and stuff. Freddy's in his nightmares. And basically this movie, the whole thing is a build up to finally Jason realizes that, he's got to take out Freddy. Freddy's controlling him. And the showdown at the end just is one of the more badass scenes in horror movies. Just seeing these two icons, these horror icons, just clash. It was just one of my favorite movies. Just not only is it a good scary movie, but it's a badass movie. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a fan of both of these guys like I am. And at the end of the movie, it kind of almost teased like they were going to do a second one, but I guess that's never coming around. But clocking in at number 6, and that is 1978 John Carpenter's Halloween, American independent slasher film directed by John Carpenter. There's really not a lot to say about this. Everybody knows about this movie. You probably see it every Halloween season. AMC plays the shit out of it. Produced by Deborah Hill. Screenplay by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. Starring Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis. And this movie is basically, it really set off the whole Halloween franchise, and it centers around Michael Myers, who is he's the antagonist, and he breaks out of a mental asylum to start the movie. The movie doesn't really give any context, especially to his childhood. It really starts out, shows him kind of murdering his sister, and but you don't really get a whole lot of context like the 2007 Rob Zombie film does. It just kind of leaves Michael as a mysterious. He's called the Shape in this movie. He's referred to as, and yeah, this movie, I mean, Yeah, some people might bitch because it's not in my top 5, but hey, it's in my top 10. I love this movie. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I don't have any criticisms of it. I mean, this movie really speaks for itself. It's a classic, 1978. It's one of the first movies of its kind. It really opened the door for a lot more movies like this in the future. So yeah, coming in, clocking in at number 6 is John Carpenter's original Halloween. All right, guys, getting into my top 5. These top 5 were not easy to choose. It was really hard to kind of figure out exactly where I wanted to place everything, but starting out here, number 5 is 2013's Evil Dead, directed by Fede Alvarez, starring Jane LeVay, Shiloh Fernandez, Lou Taylor Pusey, Jessica Lucas, and Elizabeth Blackmore. This movie, you know, it stars really Jane LeVay. She is a drug addict in this movie. Her friends are taking her out to this cabin in the woods to kind of help her deal with her withdrawals. Ends up not going really well for her. She becomes kind of open to demonic possession, as is with the Evil Dead series. And this movie is really gory. Is one of the things they really stayed true to the source material as far as like the story. They kind of added a more modern spin on things, but really it holds true to the original Evil Dead movie, and they just put a modern twist on it. One of the things I would say about this movie is it was pretty gory at times, but it wasn't too over the top. I love this movie. I love everything they did with it. I think it's pretty well received. I think a lot of people really did like this movie, and for me, it's one of my top 5s. It's one of my top 5 favorites of all time. I love the Evil Dead series, and I thought, if they're going to redo this series, they're going to reboot it, they need to do a kick-ass job, and that's what they did in this movie. So if you haven't seen Evil Dead 2013 version of that movie, I suggest you go check it out if you really like scary movies like that. And if you like the Evil Dead, you should be watching this movie if you haven't already. All right, clocking in here at number 4 will be The Conjuring 2, directed by James Wan. I think most people probably have seen this movie. It's pretty well received. The movie stars Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Francis O'Connor, Madison Wolfe. A lot of people will say this is probably their favorite Conjuring movie. A lot of people don't even like the Conjuring series, but me as a horror fan, I like them. I think they've all been made pretty well. Obviously, Conjuring, if you're not familiar with it, if they follow Ed and Lorraine Warren's investigations, who based off true stories. In this movie, they go help the Hodgins family in Enfield, London. They start having some strange occurrences, and then Ed and Lorraine Warren go out there, and this movie just goes just off the rails. I mean, a lot of really good scenes in this movie. Obviously, The Nun, one of the scariest. Probably one of the most scariest scenes ever recorded is when she's behind that painting with the eyes glowing, and she just takes off running at Lorraine. This movie, I just remember the first time I watched it, it really did scare me. It's one of the few, the first Conjuring movie was good. I liked it. This movie actually scared me the first time I watched it. Obviously now I've seen it so many times, you could watch it comfortably, but I think at this point, most people have seen this movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure it's still on Netflix, so I think you could watch it on there. Also, I'm pretty sure it's on HBO Max, so if you haven't seen this movie, or for some reason, haven't seen it all the way through, I suggest you go watch it. So number 4, The Conjuring 2, guys. Coming in at number 3 for me, probably my favorite of this series. Number 3 will be A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. See, I love this movie. 1987 American fantasy slasher, directed by Chuck Russell, starring Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, Patricia Arquette, Larry Fishburne, Priscilla Pointer, Craig Wasson. This is one of the more popular Freddy Krueger movies. This is one of the funnest Freddy Krueger movies. Basically, a group of friends who realize that they can beat Freddy if they join together. They end up fighting him in the dream world, and it's just a fun movie, man. This movie really, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. It's definitely in my top 3. I suggest, if you're not really a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street, This would probably be the movie that I would say you should watch this one. You know what I mean? This movie doesn't take itself too seriously. It's kind of funny. You start kind of getting that goofy, fun Freddy Krueger, and it kind of starts lighting up. The very first Nightmare on Elm Street is a good movie. It sets the tone. But in this, by the time you get to this part 3, you start seeing Freddy Krueger really starting to liven up. And this movie was well received. This is a fan favorite. A lot of people love this movie. I personally love this movie, and I suggest it to anybody who loves Nightmare on Elm Street. If you haven't seen it, I couldn't understand why you wouldn't have seen this movie by now. But if you haven't seen it, maybe you're not a fan of that series or of Freddy Krueger, I do suggest you go see this movie or try to find it, rent it, buy it, do whatever you got to do. Just try to get your hands on this and watch it. It's a good time. It's a good 80s slasher movie, 1987. It's a good fun time, especially for a horror movie. It's scary, but it's also fun. I really don't know how else to explain it. So yeah, number 3, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, Dream Warriors. Coming in at number 2, one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is 1981, the original Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell. And what can I say about this movie? It's, for the time it was created, some of the scariest effects, like makeup effects. I remember the first time I've seen this movie, and knowing that it was an older movie like it is, just some of the effects they use in this movie were just disturbing, especially for 1981. Even now watching it back, it kind of looks a little dated, but it's still gross. And I think that's what they tried to achieve with this movie. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people probably by this time have seen this movie. You probably know quite a bit about it. Obviously they rebooted this movie back in 2013. It had a couple sequels after this one, but it increasingly got kind of goofy until they rebooted it in 2013, which we had just talked about. But yeah, number 2, The Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell this is kind of his coming out party, in my opinion. And yeah, this is kind of that's the thing about this movie that sets it apart to me, is just some of the makeup work, some of the visuals that they give you for a 1981 film were just fucking spectacular and gross at the same time, and I love this movie. So yeah, number 2, The Evil Dead, 1981, all the way down to number 1. And this was a hard decision and also an easy decision at the same time, because the movie I'm about to say is probably the scariest movie I've ever watched. And the thing about this movie is, I watched this the first time, I thought it was scary, but I didn't really understand how deep this movie was and how much there is going on in the background that you really don't even notice. You almost have to watch an explanation video before you even turn this film on, or either that, or you need to watch it 3 or 4 times to really capture what really is going on in this movie. And this movie is just, it leaves you feeling, it sticks with you after the movie's over. And the movie that I'm talking about is 2018's Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster. It's his film debut, and it's a fucking bombshell, dude. If you have not seen this movie, I suggest you go watch it. And I don't even know where I can really start. I mean, I can't even get into the plot of this movie. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched it. If you have watched it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you've seen the explanation videos, you know what I'm talking about. This movie's deep. It sticks with you after you watch it. It's icky. It makes you feel weird. You don't know what the fuck's going on. But it's a good movie, and it was well received. Won awards. The starring in this movie is Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, Miley Shapiro, Ann Dodd, and Gabriel Byrne. Like I said, this movie was well received. This is my number 1 movie. This is, in my opinion, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. It's definitely one of the more scary movies of the modern era. You know what I mean? I know a lot of these movies on this list have been 80s movies, early 2000s movies. This is probably one of the newer movies, one of the newer films on this countdown list that I've talked about. And I'll put it up number 1 for a reason. So if you've not seen this movie, it's 2018's Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster. like I said, if you haven't seen this, you need to watch this movie. You need to give it a chance. You need to watch an explanation video either before or after you watch. I suggest you do it after you watch it. Then watch the explanation video, then maybe watch the film again, just to kind of see some of the stuff you definitely didn't see the first time, because you're definitely not going to understand what the fuck's going on in this movie when you first watch it. You're going to get the scary parts, yeah, but are you going to really understand the story? I didn't understand the story at first. I kind of did, but not really. It goes a lot more deeper than you think, and this movie is just a mind fuck all the way around, and just a really good movie, man. It's a fucking masterpiece, and I will probably watch anything that Ari Aster directs from here on. I seen Midsommar. I like that movie too. It wasn't on this list, but he's made some really good movies, and I'm a fan of him. But yeah, I can't recommend this movie more, man. If you like scary movies, this is one of the scariest movies, in my opinion. So there you have it, guys. I hope that you liked this video. I know it was a long one. I tried to talk about these videos, or talk about these movies, go in detail about them, tell you what I liked about them. I hope I did a pretty good job on it. It's taken a while to make this video, and I just hope that you guys enjoy the content. It seems like this channel may be more horror-based content right now. I might add some other stuff in there later on, but right now I kind of like what we're doing. I hope you guys do too. If you do, just hit that like button, maybe hit that bell at the top, subscribe, and share the video. If you like what we're doing here, share the video. Maybe your friends will like it too. I'm trying to grow the page up a little bit. I really like doing this YouTube thing. It's fun. And, also go down in the comments. Let me know what your top 15 movies are. I mean, I know people probably ain't going to like all the movies that I put in my top 15, but it's my top 15. So go ahead down below, comment your top 15 favorite horror movies, and we'll talk about it, man. I could have done a top 50 of these, really, if I really had the time to do it. But 15 was a pain in the ass to get through, but we did it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and share. Until the next time, guys, I'll see you in the next video.